Parking lots. Yes, parking lots are kind of a hot topic in Ithaca this week. The city sold a number of spaces in one lot to a local auto shop and have just transferred the management of another city lot to the Ithaca Urban Renewal Agency. Well, here to tell us why and provide a bit more context on this recent parking lot transfer is the Ithaca Times Michael Nocella. Michael, thank you for joining me.
Always a pleasure, Sam.
So just to get us started, I mentioned that the city transferred the management of one lot to the Ithaca Urban Renewal Agency. I'm wondering if you can tell us what that's all about.
So it's still in city control, but now essentially Common Council gave the okay to Ithaca Urban Renewal Agency, or the IURA, to go ahead and finish its negotiations with Hilton over the lot. Hilton is proposing a 123-room hotel. It was formerly going to be a Hampton Inn and Suites. Hilton owns Hampton, but it recently got added to their new line called Canopy Hotels. There's about 11 proposed and signed off Canopy Hotels over the world. Some of the cities include London, Portland, Denver, and these are kind of kitschy, artisanal hotels with, a nice cafe, art, all that fun stuff. So these are kind of a different type of hotel that Hilton thought, hey, Ithaca might fit this vision, and the city seems like it would be intrigued by such a proposal.
And can we even walk this back a little bit more? Where is this parking lot?
So this parking lot is at 320 East State Street, right near the Carey Building, just before you hit the Commons, and it is it's a 32-spot parking lot near some stores that Ithacans might know: Old Goat Winter Gear Store, Homespun, and the Community Music Arts School. And so these businesses leaned on this lot pretty heavily for their customers. It's very convenient if you're coming down that way to just kind of snag a spot in that parking lot. There's not really it's a tricky intersection to kind of navigate. So it was a popular parking lot, and there's been, some people who are up in arms about the potential of plopping a huge hotel on top of it. So it would make navigating those stores that so many like a little bit trickier.
Yeah, and you mentioned that before maybe Hilton was scoping out this lot for their, hip, quote-unquote, hip hotel, that Hampton Inn was actually looking at it. So it seems like the city has been thinking about the use of this lot for a hotel for quite a while.
Well, yeah, it's the same project, and so I mentioned Hilton owns Hampton, and I guess they thought, as they looked at the Hampton Inn proposal and realized that this was going forward and seemed to get some general support from city officials, that it was a prime location to add in their recent Canopy line. So that's kind of what happened there.
And hotels are something that you and I have actually spoken about before on this show, because it's something that you've written about before in the Ithaca Times. I think it was back in August. You asked the question, are there too many hotels in Ithaca, and kind of took a look at what you called Ithaca's hotel boom. So is this something that the city is kind of still keeping in mind, that there are so many hotels interested in coming to Ithaca, and maybe the breakdown of the demand versus actually the supply that they are enabling to come into being?
It is, and it's definitely something they're thinking about as well. But what they keep hearing, especially one person who's been an advocate for it, is Bruce Stoff, the director of tourism in Tompkins County in Ithaca, and he just gave a report, I think it was last month during a Common Council meeting, in which he said, hey, we just had a record summer for tourism in Ithaca and Tompkins County. We're selling more rooms than we could handle. And the thing about it is, it's kind of crazy. In Ithaca City, not Tompkins County, I think Tompkins County is somewhere around 150, 160 a night. If you're just looking at Ithaca, downtown Ithaca, rooms are an average of $200 a night, and that is double the average of a hotel room in upstate New York in general. So as long as they're selling at a good clip at that amount of money, you can bet your bottom dollar that Ithaca, hotel developers are going to be clawing to get their take.
Hmm. And something else that you wrote about in your article in August, and something I wanted to ask you about now, is not necessarily pertaining to new hotel building, but rather the growth of currently existing hotels. I know you mentioned in that piece that Hotel Ithaca was actually looking to expand and potentially build some kind of conference center. Has there been any more activity on that?
So Ithaca Hotel is actually, I think they're maybe decreasing by 10 rooms or something, but they are trying to build that huge convention center, which would increase the demand even more for neighboring hotels in the city. That has really seemed to hit an impasse. I know it came before IURA to kind of put brains together to see where they can get funding back on track for that. What happened was it kind of sat in limbo for so long that the cost of materials needed to build it escalated to the point where it no longer made financial sense for them. So they're kind of, I think, still trying to look at all the numbers to see when and how they can make that happen. But as of now, that's kind of on the back burner. I know Marriott Hotel on Green Street is moving forward, and I think if it hasn't broken ground technically already, that should happen in the coming weeks, if not first thing in spring, and that's a 160-room hotel. So you're looking by 2017, another 280 rooms in downtown Ithaca, and it's definitely going to be a little cozier in here for most Ithacans.
I like what you said. It's going to be cozier for Ithacans. I'm wondering if it's going to be cozier for some of the hotels that are actually already here. I mean, if you drive around not just the city of Ithaca, but the town of Ithaca, there are a number of hotels that are maybe further afield, not necessarily focused on downtown and the commons. I'm wondering maybe how they're reacting to this kind of expansion that's really focused in the city.
And it's kind of like looking at a jungle. You know, you got a new predator in, and you take the low person or animal off the food chain. That's who they're going after. And so when these new hotels do come in downtown, those are going to be the hotels and motels that feel it the most. You look at Roadway Inn and Suites, the Economy Lodge, even places like Ramada Inn, Trip Hotel. Those are the facilities that are probably going to see their wallets impacted the most. In fact, Roadways Inn and Suites, their owner is acknowledging the quote-unquote hotel boom and has its sights on trying to leave the area. They want to go to California, and they maybe want to even give their land to McGuire Automotive, who's kind of tossed around this idea of putting 3 new car dealerships down Amaya Road.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I know, has kind of been mentioned in the discussion about what a hotel can actually do for a city is increasing the tax base. And so I'm wondering if you've noticed any kind of maybe competition between the city and the town. You know, if you think of these hotels coming in and increasing the city's tax base, that's affecting these hotels that are in the town. Maybe they're thinking about moving to California. Is that kind of aspect of this hotel boom coming into play at all? Is it something that's being talked about?
It hasn't really been talked about yet. What I do know is I think the number Bruce Stoff threw out, the Canopy Hotel would add $1 million to sales tax revenue every year for the city. And in terms of the town and city, playing tug of war, I haven't seen any of that yet, because I think what would ultimately happen if the new hotels in the city push out the motels and hotels in the town, as I said, those owners are probably going to look to sell their land to a different business. So then that would ultimately become a different business that might even be more successful than the motel right now. So I don't think that's something the town would be too worried about, because it's not like people are lining up, I don't think, to stay at the Roadway Inn and Suites as it is. It's probably, I would imagine it's doing okay, but I don't think that's where the recently adopted town budget is pulling its dollars from.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So you mentioned that with the approval of this transfer of control of the parking lot to the Ithaca Urban Renewal Agency, that this project is essentially, the door has been opened for this Hilton Hotel.
Right. Yeah. This would have been the time for the city to kind of nip it in the bud if it wanted to not see this project move forward. They could have saved themselves countless hours at meetings going forward to just say, hey, this isn't really for us. We're going to hold on to the parking lot. See you next time. But what they did is unanimously approved the transfer. It's still in, the relatively early process with city planning, and then it's got to ultimately be approved by Common Council again. But this was definitely a hurdle, and it was cleared with relative ease.
Mm-hmm. And something that we'll definitely be watching as it continues to jump these additional hurdles, and something we'll have you, I'm sure, back on to talk about. And folks, Michael Nocella is a reporter for the Ithaca Times who joins us regularly to talk about the stories he's been covering in the last week. You can find this story on what the city of Ithaca is doing with this one particular parking lot in the pages of this week's Ithaca Times. Michael, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to come by and chat.
Always fun.